Hey YouTube, Evan here. So 6 years ago, I made a video about how to effectively write an SAT essay. And to this day, 6 years later, occasionally I still get messages from viewers regarding that video. Now, a couple weeks ago, I actually got an interesting message from a guy named Rob. And Rob's question actually surprised me a little bit because I hadn't been completely following what was going on with the SAT. And his question was, "Hey Evan, thank you for your SAT essay video. I wanted to write you because the SAT essay is no longer like you described. They've changed how it works and now it's very different. I was wondering if you had any advice for me as I have to take the essay portion of the test during my next SAT." Now, Rob's question is a question that apparently a lot of kids are dealing with right now because last year the College Board changed how the SAT essay worked. For one, it's no longer mandatory. It's optional now, so you don't have to actually take the essay portion of the test. Now, in Rob's case, and from what I've understood, some colleges still require you to take the essay. Especially if you're getting into certain programs, you're looking at maybe being an English major or something like that, the essay portion is still mandatory for you. But you'd have to check, obviously, with your local college. The second thing that has changed since my time was that you now have 50 minutes to complete the SAT essay. It's 25 minutes longer than what used to be the allotted time. This apparently changed in March of 2016. Now, the third thing that has changed that honestly took me off guard the most was the fact that you no longer will be asked to agree or disagree with a position on a topic or write about your personal experience. Now, that took me back, right? The SAT essay was always about you being given a prompt and being asked to give your opinion on whether or not you agree with it, or maybe somewhere in between. It was a cause for critical thinking because you only had 25 minutes to formulate an opinion, cohesively put it down on paper, and make sure it all flowed right? So this, obviously, now you have a lot more time. They've changed how it works. So I started looking up sample prompts to see what would be the new norm for it. And apparently, here's one sample prompt. It says, write an essay in which you explain how Peter S. Goodman builds an argument to persuade his audience that news organizations should increase the amount of professional foreign news coverage provided to people in the United States. In your essay, analyze how Goodman uses one or more of the features listed in the box above, or features of your own choice, to strengthen the logic and persuasiveness of his argument. Be sure that your analysis focuses on the most relevant features of the passage. Your essay should not explain whether you agree or disagree with Goodman's claims, but rather explain how Goodman builds an argument to persuade his audience. Now, obviously, this prompt has changed the way that you tackle your essay, right? You're no longer giving an opinion. In the spirit of reading comprehension, they're asking you to read an article and understand how the author is making his argument to his desired audience, right? Now, some of the features that apparently they make you look out for include topics such as rhetorical questions, allusions, stuff like that, right? So it's making you analyze where the author is coming from with his argument and how he's delivering it to his audience, right? So obviously this prompt has changed the way that we tackle the SAT essay portion of the test. You're given more time, so you can obviously write more. And they specifically tell you not to agree or disagree. This is merely an analysis, right? Completely an analysis. You're not agreeing or disagreeing. And if they're saying for you not to agree or disagree, don't do it, right? So the three sections that you're going to be graded on for this include reading comprehension. A successful essay shows that you understand the passage, including the interplay of central ideas and important details, and also shows an effective use of textual evidence, right? So they are analyzing how well you can read the passage and understand what the author is saying. That may sound easy, but in some of these passages, especially if you've taken the SAT once, you know that passage could be saying one thing, but the author is completely going in a different direction. The next portion is analysis that you're being graded on. A successful essay shows your understanding of how the author builds an argument by examining the author's use of evidence, reasoning, and other stylistic and persuasive techniques, supporting and developing claims with well-chosen evidence from the passage. So they're asking you to not only read the passage, but take portions of it to build your analysis. I'm just going to say argument. That's what I'm used to saying, but it's really your analysis of where the author is coming from and how the author is making their argument. The third section is writing. A successful essay is focused, organized, and precise, with an appropriate style and tone that follows the conventions of standard written English. You are scored by 2 people, with each of the above 3 points of interest being scored 1 to 4. So, 3 points, right? Writing, analysis, and reading comprehension. Those 3 points govern how you should be formatting your essay. So, to do well in the essay, you must first learn how to properly analyze a piece of written work. So if you want tips on how to do well in this essay, number 1 tip that I'm going to give you is read. Read a lot. Read news articles, opinion articles, particularly, and understand how the author is making his argument to his audience, right? Because if you can do that, you're already, off to the races on this portion of the test. Second tip, read the passage thoroughly. Do not rush, right? You're given 50 minutes now to write this essay. You used to be given 25. Passages, from what I've seen, are not overly long, but there's meat in them. So give yourself time to properly read the passage, understand it, and take it apart a little bit. In my last video, I talked about making a tree of how you wanted to structure your argument. Make a tree of how the author structured his argument, right? Make a tree to see where the author was coming from with his points. Because if he makes one point, it's likely going to lead into another. They're all interconnected in one way or another, right? Since you're given more time, you're also going to be expected to give more of a body to your essay. This means fleshing points out more, but not going overboard in your work. You're given more time, so the temptation will be to write a lot more, right? You want to make a longer essay. And in some cases, you do technically have to make a slightly longer essay. It's no longer just going to be intro, 1 body paragraph, conclusion, right? Or 3 body paragraphs, conclusion. Now you got to give a little bit more meat to it. But on that same token, you don't need to go overboard with that, right? You can still get away with writing a decently long essay without rambling. 4th point, do not spend too much time describing what the passage is about. This is not the point of the exercise, right? You're not describing the passage. You're describing your analysis. You're giving your analysis of where the author is coming from. Now, if you want to use points of the passage to illustrate how the author used that in his analysis, be my guest. That is the point of this exercise. But the point of the exercise is not to describe the passage itself. Number 5, how does the author make his points? Is he using rhetorical questions? Is he using allusions? What type of sentence structure is he using in order to make his points, right? All these things play together, and by using them and by knowing those types of terms, you can come off as being 1, knowledgeable, and 2, literate in the types of language that are going to make you stand out from everybody else who's taking that essay portion of the test. Number 6, what are the main ideas of the passage, right? I just said, the author uses such and such rhetorical questions, right? How is he using that to drive his point? What are the arguments the author is making? Common sense dictates if he's using a rhetorical question, why is he using that to further his point? Talk about that. Number 7, what constitutes evidence, right? So the author is making a point about something, and you have to analyze it. What type of evidence is the author using to make his points? Is it good types of evidence, or is it faulty evidence? Things like that are what you're going to have to talk about now in this new essay portion of the test. You're not giving an opinion anymore. You're talking about the author's opinion. Does he have a good opinion? You can't give an opinion on that. right? So it's all part of your analysis in describing how he got to that conclusion. Let's keep going. Focus on your sentence structure and command of the English language. Use complicated words only if they make sense in the context of your sentence. Make sure your paragraphs are cohesive and build to make a point, right? So this is the portion where a lot of the advice I gave in my last video actually makes sense here, right? The paragraphs you're going to be making need to be, one, cohesive, and two, they need to make a point. If you're not making a point, you're rambling. So keep it cohesive, keep it in a moderate length, and make it make a point. You're being asked to do an analysis, right? You're being asked to show that you understand where the author is coming from. You're not going to be able to accomplish this if you're rambling through. Nobody's going to get your points. So you need to be cohesive, you need to make an argument, and you need to make sure everything is working towards that point, right? Make every sentence count. Just because you can write more doesn't mean you should, right? Just because you can write more doesn't mean you should. I'm going to say it a third time. Just because you can write more doesn't mean you should. The point, the 50 minutes, is not meant to give you a free license to write as much as you want. It's meant to give you the time to put together an essay that is coherent, builds to a point, and gives good analysis of where the author is coming from. Every sentence should have meat to it. That flows perfectly into that last point. Make every sentence count, right? Make every sentence work for you. Because these people, as I said in my last video, they're not going to read the entire thing, right? They skim through, they have to read thousands of these things. They skim through. So in the points that they're seeing, you want to make sure that what you're writing actually is, good stuff. This way, while they're skimming through, if they see something that catches their eye, you get points for that, right? Finally, check your work for grammatical errors. Don't be that guy or girl who goes through the test and spells the THA by accident. That's points. You don't want to be that person. Go back, understand your work, right? Understand, make sure everything works together. Make sure everything is spelled right. Don't use a word if you can't spell it. Just don't. Use something else. Make sure the sentence is slow. Make sure you have good punctuation. And use those 50 minutes wisely. Make those 50 minutes work for you, right? Now, everything that I've said so far is built towards making you write the better essay, right? But the key to doing well in this new section, and if you take one point home today, take this: read a lot. And don't just read stuff that you enjoy. Read stuff that's going to make you a more diverse person that can understand arguments from multiple points. For instance, right? You may read an opinion article that says the Keystone Pipeline project is bad for the environment, right? On another case, somebody else may write another article that says it is good for the country because it does this, this, and this. Now, you could be that person that just reads that one point of view on either side, right? And never bothers to make an analysis of where the author's coming from. The point of this project, this essay portion of the test, is to see how well you actually analyze the opinions of others. If you can't analyze the opinions of others, you're not going to do well on this. So do yourself a favor, read a lot, read multiple opinions, and learn how to judge where the authors are coming from. I promise you'll do so much better on this portion if you do that. Okay? If you have any questions, feel free to message me. You can put it in the comments as well. I'll do my best to get back to you.